Look at this. A swarm of Ukrainian drones dominating the skies in a very important region of Ukraine. Russian soldiers admit we can't even lift our heads, let alone move our vehicles. And do you want to know what these drones are doing there? Defending Ukraine's vital artery in Donbass, Pokrovsk, the railway hub that supplies the entire Ukrainian resistance in the east. If Pokrovsk falls, the ability to defend half of the contested territory falls with it. And Russia knows that. That's why, in recent days, it sent an assault column with 29 armored vehicles to try to break through the defenses. The result? All destroyed. 29 vehicles reduced to twisted metal. Most of them by drones. But here's what you need to understand. Ukraine is not just holding Pokrovsk, it's taking back what belongs to it. Let's start with the basics. Why is Pokrovsk important? This city is home to one of the main railway hubs in the region. Trains transport soldiers, tanks, ammunition, food, and medical supplies to the entire front line in the east. With this hub operating, everything arrives quickly, in just a few hours. Without it, the same cargo would have to go by truck, taking days. And those trucks would have to travel on roads constantly bombed by Russia. Many wouldn't reach their destination. Losing Pokrovsk would cut off the main supply line that keeps Ukrainian forces operating in the east. And there's more. 20 kilometers north of Pokrovsk, there's another city called Dobropilha. These two cities work together. The artillery in Dobropilha covers the approaches to the north of Pokrovsk, and the artillery in Pokrovsk protects Dobropilha. This creates overlapping fields of fire that make any Russian advance much more costly. If one city falls, the other is vulnerable. On the Russian side, Pokrovsk represents the gateway to the rest of the Donetsk region that is still under Ukrainian control. If Russia takes Pokrovsk, the way will be open to the next major cities, Kramatorsk and Slovyansk, and conquering these cities would allow Putin to declare that he has achieved one of his main objectives in the war, to fully control the Donetsk region. This goes beyond territory. It's about telling the Russian people and the world that the war was worth it. It's propaganda. It's Putin trying to justify all the casualties and all the economic costs. That's why Russia has concentrated half of all its attack forces in this region. Half of all the soldiers trying to advance along the entire front line are here, focused on taking Pokrovsk. But despite all this Russian effort, things are not going as planned. In fact, the opposite is happening. At the beginning of October, Ukraine began to regain territory. The 82nd Air Assault Brigade liberated the village of Suketsk. The operation was so swift that the Russians had no time to react. 44 Russian soldiers were killed, 8 wounded, and 9 surrendered. And that was just the beginning. In 10 days, Ukraine recaptured 9 entire villages and cleared another 9 of Russian groups that had infiltrated them. In total, it liberated 186 square kilometers of territory in just 10 days. To give you an idea of the size, that's equivalent to the entire area of Washington, the capital of the United States. And do you know what the cost was for Russia? 1,756 soldiers out of action, killed, seriously wounded, or captured. In addition, 75 military vehicles destroyed. Tanks, trucks, armored vehicles, expanding to a full 2 months. Since August, the numbers become even more dramatic. More than 15,700 Russian soldiers out of action, 1,364 vehicles and pieces of equipment destroyed. That's more military equipment than many small countries have in their entire arsenal. The specific numbers tell a clear story. 36 Russian tanks destroyed, 121 armored vehicles eliminated, 162 artillery systems neutralized, 447 trucks and military vehicles destroyed. And there's a number that reveals a lot. "592 motorcycles and quad bikes destroyed." And do you want to know why Russia is using motorcycles and quad bikes in a war? Because the armored military vehicles are being destroyed so quickly that they started using civilian vehicles to transport soldiers. Cheap motorcycles, regular quad bikes. This shows the level of desperation. And in the drone war, just in this region, Ukrainian forces have shot down 4,689 Russian drones. Almost 5,000 drones eliminated. This is a war increasingly dominated by unmanned systems. And the numbers show who is dominating this dimension of the conflict. So, how is Ukraine managing to cause this level of destruction? The answer lies in drone technology. And in a dimension of the war that rarely appears in the news: electronic warfare. Before the war, Ukraine hardly produced any drones. It relied on imports. But necessity forced a transformation. Today, Ukraine is building millions of drones per year. The goal for 2025 is to produce 4 million drones within the country itself. They're not just reconnaissance drones. They're attack drones that carry explosives, kamikaze drones, long-range drones, an entire family of unmanned systems that are changing the nature of this war. And then there's electronic warfare. Drones operate using radio signals. Someone on the ground controls the drone through electromagnetic waves. If you can jam or interfere with those signals, the drone loses control and crashes. That's exactly what electronic warfare units do. The Ukrainians are constantly working to jam Russian drone signals while protecting their own. It's an invisible battle in the electromagnetic spectrum, which decides who can use their drones effectively. And in this invisible war, Ukraine has invested heavily. But here's the key question. Why does this matter? Ukraine is retaking territory and destroying Russian equipment. But so what? What does that change in the end? This is where we get to the key point of everything we've talked about here. Ukraine isn't fighting so hard for every village just to win on the battlefield. It's fighting to win at the negotiating table. A few weeks ago, a meeting was scheduled between the American President, Donald Trump, and the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, in Budapest. The goal was to discuss how to end the war, but the meeting didn't happen. It fell through before it even started. During the preparatory talks, the Russian minister, Sergei Lavrov, made Moscow's position clear. Russia does not accept a simple ceasefire. It wants more territory. It wants guarantees that Ukraine will never join NATO. It wants broad concessions. Trump's response was direct. I don't want to have a wasted meeting. I don't want to waste time. He canceled everything. Putin was wrong.
No, I don't want a pointless meeting or to waste my time, so let's see what happens.
But we made all those great deals, great peace deals. They were all peace deals, solid deals, every one of them. But this one,
He bet that he could wait for the West to get tired of supporting Ukraine and then get everything he wanted through Trump. But by demanding too much, by showing total inflexibility, he ended up pushing even Trump away. It was a strategic mistake. But the idea of a deal is still on the table, and that idea represents a real threat to Ukraine. The basic proposal is to freeze the war along the current lines. The territory each side controls today becomes tomorrow's border, at least temporarily. And do you know why this is dangerous for Ukraine? Because today, Russia controls approximately 20% of Ukrainian territory. Freezing things now means making this permanent. Russian aggression would be rewarded, and Putin would keep what he took by force. And, even worse, he would have time to reorganize his troops, repair his equipment, and, in the future, try to attack again. That's exactly why Ukraine is fighting so hard right now. Every village conquered today changes tomorrow's map. If those lines are ever frozen, Ukraine wants them to be as far away from its main cities as possible. It wants to recover as much as possible before any agreement is forced. But something even more important is happening. Ukraine is sending a message to Trump, to Europe, to the world. We're not losing. We're gaining ground. We don't need a desperate deal. We can keep fighting. We can take back more. Every victory on the battlefield changes the diplomatic conversation. It becomes harder to pressure Ukraine into accepting an unfavorable deal when the whole world sees they're advancing, that they're winning. President Zelensky observed a pattern. Whenever the United States mentions increasing military aid, Putin quickly offers to negotiate. When aid doesn't arrive, Putin vanishes again. This taught a fundamental lesson. Strength on the battlefield turns into strength at the negotiating table. Every destroyed tank weakens Putin. Every village reclaimed strengthens Zelensky. That's why the Ukrainian strategy is clear. Keep up the pressure. Don't give Russia time to recover. Keep the cost of the war so high that it becomes unsustainable for Putin. And there are signs that this strategy is working. The Russian economy is under increasing strain. The military budget for 2025 increases by 25%, but at the same time, the Russian government is cutting funds from other areas. The programs supporting war veterans, wounded soldiers, and families of the deceased will see its budget cut by over half. Think about what that means. Russia is paying more to recruit new soldiers, but paying less to take care of those who have already fought. That destroys morale. Who would want to enlist knowing that if they come back injured, their family will be abandoned? And there's the issue of tanks. Russia can manufacture or refurbish about 300 to 400 tanks per year, approximately 34 per month. But just in this region of Pokrovsk, 36 tanks were destroyed in 2 months. The math doesn't add up. Russia is losing equipment faster than it can replace it. This isn't sustainable in the long run. Every day, without Russian progress, is another day the Russian economy bleeds under sanctions. Another day of military casualties without significant gains. Another day when Putin becomes more politically vulnerable. On the other hand, each passing day allows Ukraine to strengthen its drone industry, train more troops, and refine its tactics. Each victory makes it easier to ask the West for more help. It's easier to convince countries to send weapons and resources when they see that it's working, that the investment is worth it. European leaders and President Zelensky have been clear in joint statements. International borders cannot be changed by force. You can't just invade a country, take territory, and expect the world to accept it. This is a direct message against any proposal to freeze the war and legitimize the Russian occupation. As you can see, Pokrovsk is not just another city contested in a distant war. It's the point where everything comes together, where the military battle meets the diplomatic battle, where the present shapes the future. Ukraine is fighting today for the right to negotiate its own terms tomorrow. Every meter of land reclaimed is a vote against an imposed agreement. It's a statement: we will not negotiate from a position of weakness. The villages around Pokrovsk may not make the main headlines. They're not as well known as other battles, but they represent something fundamental. A turning point in the war. Russia calculated that time was on its side, that the West would get tired, that Ukraine would break, and that in the end, Putin would get what he wanted. But a war of attrition works both ways. Yes, Ukraine is suffering, but Russia is too. And the numbers suggest that Russia may be suffering even more. If Russia struggles to hold costly gains in captured villages, how can it advance through Donetsk or retain its current territory? The war isn't over, and Russia still occupies significant Ukrainian territory. They still have resources and the ability to continue, but the trajectory is changing, and that matters. Pokrovsk has become more than just a point on the map. It has become a symbol, a test of determination, and against all odds, Ukraine is showing that its resolve remains unshaken. And you, what do you think? If Ukraine manages to regain territory now, will it have more power to negotiate a just peace? Leave your opinion in the comments. If this video helped you better understand this complex situation, share it with someone who is also interested in these topics, and subscribe to the channel for more analyses about the conflicts that are shaping the world we live in. See you next time.